It was 11:47 at night and I was sitting on the floor of my bathroom, back against the tub, holding my phone with both hands because I didn't trust myself to hold it with one. 3 hours earlier, I had lost my third pregnancy. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a way anyone would make a movie about. I just started bleeding, and then I was in the ER, and then a doctor I had never met before came in and said the words I already knew were coming, and that was that. My husband had left to move the car out of the 2-hour parking zone, and I was alone in the curtain bay when she said it. I don't even remember what I said back. I think I said thank you. I think I actually said thank you. We drove home in silence. Not a bad silence, not an angry one. Just the kind where there's nothing to say that won't make it worse. He held my hand over the center console the whole way. When we got home, he made me tea. I didn't drink and sat with me on the couch until I told him I needed to use the bathroom and just never came back out. That was when I opened the family group chat. It was called the Hargrove Crew, which had always been a little too cheerful a name for a family that communicated mostly in forwarded news articles and the occasional birthday gif. There were 14 people in it. My in-laws, my husband's 2 sisters, their husbands, a couple of cousins who'd been added years ago and never removed, his aunt who only ever responded with prayer hands. I typed for a long time. I deleted it. I typed again. What I finally sent was, "We lost the baby tonight. 3rd miscarriage. I'm home and physically okay. Please keep us in your prayers." I stared at it for a second before I hit send. I don't know exactly what I was hoping for. I wasn't expecting anyone to show up at the door. It was midnight. I just wanted, I don't know, to not be the only person in the world who knew. To put it somewhere outside of my own chest for a minute. My husband's younger sister responded within 2 minutes. Just a heart. 1 red heart. That was it, but it was something. It landed. Then nothing. I watched the little scene indicators populate one by one over the next 20 minutes. Everyone had read it. His aunt with the prayer hands read it at 11:53 and sent nothing. His mother, my mother-in-law, a woman named after a saint, who once told me at Thanksgiving that she just knew I would give her grandchildren because I had good childbearing energy, whatever that means. She read it at 11:58. She sent a thumbs up. A thumbs up. I screenshot it before I could talk myself out of it. I don't know why. Some part of me already knew I'd need it later. I should tell you a little about my mother-in-law, because she matters to this story in a way that took me a long time to fully understand. She is the kind of woman who is beloved by everyone who doesn't live with her. At church, at her garden club, at the school where she volunteers twice a week, she is warm and generous and quick to cry at other people's pain. She brought meals to 3 different neighbors when they had surgeries last year. She organized a fundraiser for a colleague's daughter's medical bills. She is good at being good in public. With me, it had always been a little different. Nothing she ever did was something you could point to directly. It was more like a collection of small things that, individually, could always be explained away. She forgot to include me in the Mother's Day card my husband's sisters organized for their side of the family. But she'd just been busy. She talked about my husband's ex-girlfriend at Christmas dinner for 20 minutes and didn't notice when I left the table, but she was just reminiscing. She once referred to our apartment as where you're staying for now in front of her entire book club, but she probably just meant it casually. My husband saw it sometimes. Mostly he didn't. He loves her in the specific way that people love parents who are mostly fine, which is to say he had learned a long time ago not to look directly at the parts that weren't. After the first miscarriage, 14 months before that bathroom floor, she had called my husband, not me, and said she was sorry for their loss. She sent a casserole. The casserole had walnuts in it. I am allergic to tree nuts, a fact she has been informed of at least 4 times. After the second miscarriage, she sent a card. It was a sympathy card, the kind with flowers on it, the kind you send when someone's grandmother dies. Inside she had written, "God has a plan." Sometimes that plan is hard to understand. Love, your mother-in-law. She signed it, your mother-in-law. Not her name. Not Mom, which is what my own mother-in-law's daughter called her, and which I had never been offered. So when she sent the thumbs up at 11:58 the night of our third loss, I filed it away and I didn't say anything. I had gotten very good at filing things away. The next few weeks were, I don't have a better word than grey. Not dark, not devastated, just grey. I went back to work after 4 days because staying home felt worse. I smiled at the right times. I ate lunch. I called my own mother every other day and let her talk about her garden because it was easier than talking about myself. What I did not do was hear from my mother-in-law. Not a call. Not a text to me directly, though I know she texted my husband because I could hear his side of those conversations from the next room. She asked how he was doing. She asked if he needed anything. She asked if he was getting some rest. She did not ask about me. I told myself it was fine. I told myself she didn't know what to say. I told myself a lot of things. It was my sister-in-law, my husband's younger sister Vera, the one who sent the heart, who told me something was wrong. She called me on a Saturday about 3 weeks after the miscarriage. We had always gotten along, Vera and I, in a low-key way. We weren't close exactly, but she was kind and she paid attention to things. She said, "Hey, I just want you to know that whatever you've been hearing about your state of mind, I don't believe any of it." I said, "I'm sorry." She said, "My mum has been telling people that her word was spiraling, that you had a complete breakdown at the hospital and that the doctors were concerned about your mental health. She told my aunt you were put on a psychiatric hold." I sat down. I wasn't near a chair. I sat down on the kitchen floor. "That's not true," I said. "I know," she said. "I know it's not true. But she's been saying it for 2 weeks and I think most of the family believes her." I need to stop here and explain something, because I've told this story to a few people and their first question is always, why would she do that? Here is what I think, and it took me a long time to get here. My mother-in-law is not a cruel person in the way that movie villains are cruel. She is a person who has spent her entire adult life curating an image of herself, of her family, of what her family represents. Her children went to certain schools. They married certain kinds of people. They had children at appropriate intervals and lived in appropriate places, and everything was a reflection. 3 miscarriages do not fit the image. A daughter-in-law with 3 miscarriages is a problem without a solution, which is the kind of problem she cannot tolerate. So she made a new story. In the new story, the problem wasn't the pregnancies. The problem was me. I was unstable. I was struggling. I was being watched by doctors. The family should give us space, should let my husband handle it, should maybe reach out to him privately rather than bother me. In the new story, she was protecting me. And everyone believed her because she is very good at being believed. I didn't confront her. Not right away. I wasn't ready, and honestly, I was scared, not of her, but of what it would cost. My husband and I talked about it for 3 nights in a row. He was angrier than I expected. He went quiet in a particular way. He goes quiet when something is actually broken through. "I want to talk to her," he said on the 3rd night. "She'll deny it," I said. "Probably," he said. "But I want her to have to deny it to my face." What we didn't expect was my brother-in-law, Vera's husband. His name is not important, but he matters. Works in compliance. Corporate compliance, the kind where his entire job is documentation and paper trails and making sure nothing can be disputed later. He is methodical in a way that is sometimes annoying at dinner parties and was, in this situation, exactly what I needed. He had quietly been collecting things for 2 weeks without telling us. He had screenshots of texts my mother-in-law had sent to various family members. Vera had shared them with him. His own mother, who was friends with my mother-in-law through a charity organization, had received a message about my psychiatric hold and had thought it was strange enough to forward it to him. There was a thread in a separate family group chat, one I was not in, where my mother-in-law had told 3 of the cousins that the doctors were keeping an eye on me and that the family should let my husband take the lead. He printed all of it. He brought it in a folder. When we sat down with my mother-in-law, in her own kitchen, at her own table, with her husband there and Vera there, and my brother-in-law with his folder, she was not expecting any of it. She started with her usual opening. How glad she was that we were talking. How worried she had been about me. How she had been telling people I needed space because she was trying to protect my privacy. My brother-in-law slid the folder across the table. He didn't say anything dramatic. He just said, "These are the messages you sent. I've dated and sourced each one." She looked at them. She looked at my husband. She looked at me. And then she said something I have thought about almost every day since. "I was only trying to help you." Not "that's not what I meant." Not "I'm sorry." "I was only trying to help you." As if help was the only possible interpretation. As if the folder of printed messages saying I'd been placed on a psychiatric hold was just a misunderstanding about helpfulness. My husband said, "Mom, she was never on a psychiatric hold. She was never diagnosed with anything. You made that up and you told our entire family, and I need to understand why." She started to cry. I want to be honest about that part. She cried and it was real. I don't think she was performing it. I think she genuinely felt something in that moment. I just don't think it was remorse. I think it was grief, but grief for herself. For the version of this where she was still the one who held everything together. Her husband, my father-in-law, a quiet man who has always been kind to me in the background of things, put his hand on the table and said, "You need to tell them the truth." There was a long silence. Then she said, "I didn't want people to think badly of the family." That was it. That was the whole answer. 3 miscarriages, 2 weeks of lies spread to 14 people, a folder of printed texts, and the reason was that she didn't want people to think badly of the family. After that meeting, things moved in the way things move after something like that. Slowly, then all at once, her husband made her call the family members she had spoken to directly. I don't know exactly what she said because I wasn't on the calls. Vera told me later that she told their aunt it had been a misunderstanding about the severity of the situation, which is a very particular kind of non-apology, but it was something. My mother-in-law did not call me. She sent a text. It said, "I know I caused harm. I'm sorry for that. I hope we can move forward." I read it 4 or 5 times. I'm sorry for that. Not for what she did specifically. Not for the psychiatric hold lie. Not for the thumbs up at midnight. For that. A word that could mean anything. A word that cost her nothing. I didn't respond for 3 days. When I finally did, I wrote, "Thank you for reaching out. I need some time before I can have a real conversation about this," which was true. I did need time. I needed more time than she probably wanted me to need. Around that same time, she reached out to my husband with a proposal. She wanted to set up a savings account, an education fund, she called it, for when we were ready to try again. She framed it as a gesture of support. She told him it would be something positive to look forward to. I think she meant it as a bridge. I think she genuinely thought it would help. I told my husband no. Not right now. Not in this form. Not tied to anything. Not coming from her. He understood. He didn't push. What I told him was, I don't want her money in this. I don't want our next pregnancy, if there is one, to have her name on it from the beginning. I don't want to feel like I owe her something when I'm already going through something. He said, "Okay, just okay," which is the right answer. It has been 7 months since that kitchen table meeting. My relationship with my mother-in-law is not repaired. I don't think it's going to be what it might have been in another life. We see each other at family things. We are polite. Sometimes she asks me questions in a way that feels like she is genuinely trying, and sometimes I believe her, and sometimes I don't. What's different is that I'm not filing things away anymore. The first time she made a comment, small, deniable, the kind she specializes in, about how some people process grief differently and take longer to bounce back. I looked at her and said calmly, "I'd like you to not make comments about my mental health to anyone in the family." I think we both know why. She didn't say anything, but she stopped. My father-in-law has been quietly, consistently kind in a way that I notice and appreciate. He shows up in small ways. He asks how I'm doing and waits for the real answer. That matters. Vera and I are actually close now. That came out of all of this. Sometimes the worst things crack open a space for something real to grow in. My husband and I are okay. We are more than okay. Grief does one of two things to a marriage. It either exposes the cracks or it seals them. I know we are lucky in which way it went for us. I still have the screenshot of the thumbs up. I don't know why I kept it. It's not like I need the reminder, but sometimes I look at it and think about that night, sitting on the bathroom floor, the tea going cold. 14 people in a group chat who all saw the message and almost none of whom said anything real. And I think about how I believed for a long time that asking for help from people who weren't safe was a failure on my part. I know now that it wasn't. The failure was theirs. The fact that I kept reaching out anyway, that I kept typing into that group chat, that I kept hoping someone in that family would meet me where I was, that wasn't weakness. That was me being a person who still believed people could show up. Some of them did, eventually, in ways I didn't expect, from directions I wasn't watching, and the ones who didn't. I'm learning to let that be their story, not mine. I'm still learning. Some days are easier than others. But I'm not on that bathroom floor anymore, and I'm not filing things away, and I have people around me now. Some of them the ones I started with, some of them new, who know how to hold something fragile without dropping it. That's not everything, but it's not nothing either.